Okay, how do we burn fat as fuel? Today I want to talk about how we burn it through exercise, at rest, all of that good stuff, diet, nutrition, all these things. I want to try to see if I can give you a quick overview of this so that it might help you target more body fat as fuel for energy so that you can lose weight in a proportion of more body fat than anything else. And I think that's what most people want to do. They want to lose body fat. They don't just want to lose weight overall. Well, how does your body burn fuel in general? Well, at any point in time, your body is going to be using carbs and fats as fuel for energy. So at rest, we use more fat as fuel. As intensity of exercise goes up, as any activity we do, the demand on our body goes up, we start to use more carb stores. The reason being is because carb stores, sugar, glycogen, those things are easier accessed by the body for fuel. It's quicker. Okay. When I'm at rest, I don't have the demand, so it's slower. I can use what's oxygen aerobic. All right. Aerobic meaning with oxygen. Aerobic exercise, things that aren't at super high levels of intensity, I can use more of a proportion of oxygen and fat as fuel because fat as fuel because I have oxygen there, because I can breathe. As soon as I can't breathe, as soon as there's a gap where it's like super, super, super intense and the reason why you breathe so hard, you're out of breath, not just when you exercise, but after you just did a sprint and you're standing there and you're breathing, it's because your body's trying to catch up with the oxygen that it needs to break down for energy. So there's always a mixture of the two, but as the exercise intensity goes up, so we've got a graph here, intensity as it goes up, here's carb stores as the blue, as at rest, so let's just say this is rest right here, I'm using more fat as fuel. As at rest, I'm using less carbs as fuel. As the exercise intensity goes up over time, I am going to use more carbohydrates because, again, I don't have as much of the oxygen, so I can't break down the fat fast enough. The fat is going to go down over time. There's this middle point right here where they cross over, which is like this 50-50, where I'm using 50% fat, 50% sugar, basically glycogen and other sugar stores. Well, that's what people talk about as I think it might be called zone 2 or whatever, but it's where you can talk. If I can exercise and I can talk, that's about the 50-50 mark. So it's not sprinting, it's not walking, it's right in that middle line where you can talk, but it's starting to maybe get a little bit difficult, but I can still have a conversation, okay? So that zone, which is that moderate level, you're gonna be burning about 50-50. But what's the problem with that if we're gonna think about overall, all right, in the scale of intensity, you're not gonna be burning that many calories in that level of intensity as it is. So in regard to losing weight, right, I talked about it before, your body's very efficient at storing, it's not efficient at burning. So if I do an activity that's not very intense, it's not gonna burn that many overall calories, even if 50% of them are coming from fat in the first place, 50% are gonna be coming from carb stores, which will be coming from the meals that you eat or your muscle glycogen or your liver glycogen, which isn't body fat. So again, we can talk about why it's inefficient. You can watch my other videos on that, but let's just talk about, again, how do we get more into burning fat? Well, let's just talk about exercise, okay? And if I use fuel for my exercise, where does it come from? Well, if I eat a meal, again, I have this carb stores in my body and it goes into my bloodstream as sugar and I'm gonna use that for energy, right, in my exercise. Well, if I don't eat and then I exercise, I might be able to get into the fat burning, okay, like we talked about, but I have to go through whatever's stored in my body first. So this is why when you exercise on an empty stomach, it's hard, much harder than you normally would. Someone commented and they say, well, I don't have the energy to do my runs or do my exercise when I don't eat. So I need to eat, I need fuel for energy so that I can do my runs. Well, if your goal is to lose weight and to target body fat, and I eat to then do a run, I'm going to then be just eating food that then is going to be burned in that activity. So I go 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Let's give you an example with real numbers. Okay, let's write this down. Let's just say my metabolism every single day is 2,000. Okay, 2,000 calories per day. But I eat because I want the energy for the run. So I eat in an excess of 2,500. Okay, so I have a positive of 500. And then I burn 500 with my workout. I'm right back to where I was, right? Where I burned the 2,500. So I'm at 0. Okay. So it's a wash. Well, I burned 500 in the workout, but I ate the 500 excess for the energy. So you didn't lose any weight. If I then exercise more, if I exercise to say 800 calories, which is super hard to do, watch my other videos on that. It's super hard to burn that many calories. Then I'll be in a deficit. Or you could have just, 2,000 calories instead of eating 2,500. Okay, I've got my 2,000, and then I just eat let's just say that was 800 calories, so that was a 300 calorie deficit. Let's just say I eat 1,700. Now I'm at that 300 calorie deficit, okay? So I don't have to do all this effort to do things, okay? And I talk about all these different reasons why: mechanical efficiency, your metabolism will actually slow down with these things. But what you want to do is, again, you want to target more body fat. So if I'm eating, it's going to target more of the carbohydrate source. If I'm exercising, it's going to be targeting more of the carbohydrate stores. So if I get in that deficit overall, where your body says, hey, I don't have any fuel for any activity, because even just staying alive takes 2,000, even just standing here, right? Not even moving, I need my 2,000 calories every single day. Well, if I don't get enough, your body, is going to have to burn something. But what did we just talk about? When we talk about energy, it's going to burn more fat at baseline. If I start exercising, it's going to start to say, hey, we need more carbohydrates, okay? And if the exercise goes up, if the intensity goes up, we're going to need even more of a proportion from carbohydrates, okay? So if I'm at rest and I use more fat as fuel and I diet and my body says, hey, let's break down, okay? Because I don't have that out of breath feeling, because I'm not taking the intensity high, my body is going to really focus on burning fat as fuel. Now, if I then strength train on top of that, my body's going to preserve the muscle. So if, let's just say I go through and I'm burning all this stuff out of my body, and my body's like, hey, we need more energy to keep you alive, okay? We're going to burn through fat and we're going to burn through muscle to break down, to give ourselves energy, because you're in a deficit and, hey, we want to survive, so we're going to use this your body will preserve the muscle on your body, so that when you do lose the body fat, you'll have a nice, good-looking physique underneath it all. Instead of just shrinking your body, you'll get even more fat loss over time. Your metabolism will increase over time, because your fat or your muscle tissue on your body is where we get the metabolism from in the first place. That metabolic tissue is from muscle. So again, if we're doing cardio, you still have to be in a deficit, but again, it's hard to do that. And when you're exercising, you're then just going to be burning the food that you ate. You're not going to be targeting the fat on your body. Even if you were in this excess, even if you were in deficit, it's just going to be primarily from the excess of what you had before. Let me reiterate that again. If I have a metabolic rate of 2,000 calories every single day, 2,000, and I eat 2,500 plus 2,500, I have an excess of 500. If I burn 800, I just burn the 500 that's from food. Then I get into that excess of the 300 that was here, the 300, then I can get into that. So the 800 calories that you burn, which is insane to do, the amount of work that you'd have to do to burn 800 calories is more than 99.9999999% of people that are watching this video could do. And if you want to do that every single day, have at it. By all means, if you can do that, more power to you. You're way better than I am. But what I'm saying is there's an easier way. Instead of working out and doing all this, and again, 500 of that calorie is just going to come from the food that you ate. You just burned off food when you could, if you could, just not eat it in the first place. Then you're in a deficit of 300. You're at the same place. You didn't do any work. You got to the same place just by eating a little bit less. So your body doesn't want to burn. And if it does want to burn with exercise, it's going to burn more carbohydrates as that exercise intensity. So again, when I'm burning that high intensity exercise, I'm going nuts on the treadmill, I'm going to prioritize burning carbohydrates and the food that I just ate. So that workout, you might think, oh, I'm in fat burning. Well, you're in burning of what you ate that day. then you get into fat burning. And even then, if my exercise intensity is super high, I still have the muscle glycogen and the liver glycogen to go through, like we just talked about. That's your quickest source of fuel. So it's not going to get into the carbs, it's not going to get into the fat burning until you start to deplete that, or unless if your exercise is at a level where it's more 50-50, and even then you're not going to burn that many calories. So again, it's going to be harder for you to do these things. Do you see what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. All right, because again, at rest, our body uses more fat for fuel. So if I'm just resting all day and I'm focusing in on my diet, I'm going to prioritize burning things from fat. My body fat's going to go down, and I'm going to get to the goal that I want. If I add strength training in, it's going to preserve muscle. So if I eat in a far excess, and if my body is not efficient at burning fat, let's just say, maybe you're not efficient at burning fat. So some of it's genetic. I'm not, because of oxygen, right? Some people aren't good at breathing. Some people have high stress in their life. So if I'm not efficient at that, your body then might target a little bit more of your muscle. So if I want to maximize that, I want to de-stress, I want to focus in on keeping the muscle in my body, I can strength train by doing that, preserve the muscle, and then I diet by getting myself in a deficit so that my body says, hey, let's burn this fat as fuel. That's how you're going to target more fat in your everyday life. You can do it with exercise, but like we said, if that exercise intensity is up because you want to burn a ton of calories, you're going to prioritize burning carbohydrates as fuel and muscle glycogen as fuel and liver glycogen as fuel, not body fat as fuel. If you want to target more body fat, then focus in on lowering your overall amount of calories throughout the day, strength training, and de-stressing. Breathe, relax, and let go. All right, that's it for today. We'll see you next time.